Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Modern Investor. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing well. Hope that everyone out there is having a fantastic day, that you're remembering to invest, that you're hopefully investing in the right investments so that you can, of course, become richer. Don't forget to leave a like on the video. It is a free and easy way to support the channel. Very big thank you to everyone out there who leaves a comment for the algorithm. And without any ado, that is further, let's jump right into it. We get it. We understand at this point, at least I would hope so and assume that you do as well, that Bitcoin more than likely is going to be around for a very long time. I think that none of us, not even the analyzers, I think none of us can say for certain in what capacity that Bitcoin will be present. Will Bitcoin become the currency similar to the US dollar? Is everything going to be priced in Satoshis? I know a lot of you are saying no. I know a lot of you are saying yes. It just kind of depends on where you're standing on the line. We have gotten more than, and this is, certain things help to solidify certain arguments or certain assets in my mind personally. And the idea that we have been hearing for some time now, that Bitcoin is being purchased by countries, by banks, by central banks. If you missed over the course of this year, I don't remember the names. There's been, every single day is actually jam-packed full of stuff, but we have heard that a number of central banks, whether it be through spot allocation, like them actually buying directly from a crypto exchange or OTC, or through ETF allocation, a lot of banks are holding huge amounts of Bitcoin. The idea of borrowing Bitcoin has also been popping up as well. The analysts are now saying that with the idea wrapped together with the end of 4-year cycles as we currently know it, we could also see Bitcoin's price rising, just rather slowly, air quotes, over the course of multiple years. That's how we get to that $1 million Bitcoin. With less volatility and more money moving into the space, drops in price are expected to not be as dramatic. Long gone are the days of the 29% drop when you wake up in the morning. And now you see around 0.5%, potentially even a 1.4% drop in price. This apparently will be the same for movements upward. As we've seen acceptance rise, as we've seen BlackRock and Fidelity, and I know BlackRock stands on its own just because of the amount of money they're holding, but these people talk to people who run countries, and they tell them what's going on, and they tell them what their allocation should be. And we've seen the discussion for Bitcoin becoming digital gold and replacing the current system that we know. That's why news like this always, I think, it's intense. It's not a little intense, it's quite intense. However, it usually, you have to decide for yourself what you think this news means, because no one can do it for you. Really. Over the years, all the good news that we've gotten, all the adoption news from Bitcoin going from 1,000 to 12,000 to 38,000 to 100,000, you had to at some point take action yourself. You couldn't have waited for someone else to go, okay, now you get into the market. I think a lot of people are going to miss out because they hear news like this and they expect prices to jump up by 15%. as opposed to understanding like the weight of what this actually means, what it entails, how different the world is going to be. Deutsche Bank is, I believe, the largest bank in Germany. It's literally called like German Bank. Gotcha. Deutsche Bank has said that Bitcoin could appear on central bank balance sheets by 2030, coexisting with gold as a complementary hedge asset. However, the bank has said that gold will keep its lead in official holdings for now. I want you to understand that years ago, if in 2017, if we had heard this news, everyone would have run into the streets, pulling out their hair, screaming as loud as they possibly could have. Banks hated us years ago. They didn't dislike us. They didn't, like, we weren't a part of the conversation. Bitcoin was always pushed to the side. Bitcoin was never a viable option for any kind of investing. Remember, we just went over, what's this guy's name? Peter something, who recently said, he's like, you should have a 10% allocation in your portfolio to Bitcoin. Years ago, that wasn't a thing. No one talked about Bitcoin allocation except for BlackRock when they did. And I was like, is everyone paying attention? The idea of Bitcoin being a thing was never really a thing except for us. We knew it existed. We knew its price was going up. We saw adoption. We used to get news years ago. There's 5,000 new wallet addresses every single day for Bitcoin. That's extraordinary. Of course, that number's a lot higher now, and Bitcoin's moving around trillions of dollars on chain. The idea of one bank buying Bitcoin, that wasn't no one was talking about banks. No. It was always like private investors or someone who was a bit eccentric, taking people to their island and, talking to Bitcoin developers and, cool. I think I'm going to throw in $1 million into this. That's all we got. When we started getting news that BlackRock was involved, I was like, everyone take notice. Please pay attention to what's going on because they're BlackRock. You have to at some point have some kind of realism in your mind where you're like, I don't like Bitcoin. I prefer XRP. I have Solana, whatever. But you see all these people talking about this one asset and then you go, well, let's see what happens. And then when the see what happens actually happens, you still don't make a move. It is a little weird. The idea of the largest, I'm going to say the largest bank in Germany, who's also very crypto friendly. It's I think it's Czech Republic, Germany, and Portugal, who have favorable crypto laws and taxation and all. We went over this years ago, announcing in 4 years and some change that Bitcoin is going to be on the balance sheet. We're not talking about these banks buying it through ETFs. We're not talking about them buying it over the counter and keeping it in a wallet. We're talking about it being part of, like when you look at like a central bank's balance sheet, it'll show like real estate holdings, stock holdings, land holdings in this thing, and so, how much gold we have, how much silver we have, etc. And then there being a spot for Bitcoin is crazy. It's something that years ago not that we didn't think it would happen, but if people keep pushing you to the side, I kind of assumed we'd never, or it would take a really long time for even any type of integration for crypto to happen in the traditional financial world. One of the main mantras for crypto was like, okay, fudge them. We can do this on our own. We are building things on our own. And eventually the idea of institutional money began. We were like, no, they don't want us. It took 5 years to go from cool, we got this. Crypto will rise. It will go up by itself based off of people on the planet, to the largest bank in Germany talking about Bitcoin on central bank balance sheets as like a literal hedge. The idea of it being on their balance sheets isn't just something like, oh, cool, oh my God, look at Bitcoin. It's no like it's for security. It's for actual stability and growth. According to the German lender, the more Bitcoin's volatility falls, the more its acceptance grows. And the currency is adopted by companies, retail investors, and governments. One of the most headache-inducing things for me this year has been getting news that multiple governments were actively buying Bitcoin. I'm not talking about the US. We had about 11 countries at some point who announced, we're creating a reserve, we're buying Bitcoin, we're mining Bitcoin. And I was like, do you all see what this means? This isn't some fly-by-night thing. Retail investors are going to be pummeled over the next few years as they realize that their purchasing power of Bitcoin and crypto continues to diminish. You didn't think it was weird when we heard several hundred companies were like, we're going to buy as much Bitcoin and Ethereum as we possibly humanly can. These companies went from, this is how I figure that something big is actually happening behind the scenes. And I mean, like, these people come into contact with big players, not just Michael Saylor, but like they have conversations. Like, these rich people tend to know other rich people. You have some kind of a connection. And at some point, people hear, you know, that country's going to announce in 3.5 months that they're buying huge amounts of Bitcoin, right? You know that country just announced their huge allocation. People start picking up phones and calling people. You guys are investing in Bitcoin? Yeah, we're going to put a couple, 100 million into it, just for so-and-so. They call their other friend. This other country, I'm telling you, 14 minutes ago, he told me they're going to be allocating hundreds of million into Bitcoin as a just in case. Remember these companies when they first started announcing it around January, February? Yeah, we're going to be allocating $500,000 into Bitcoin. We're looking at 1.1 million. And I was like, 1.1 million into Bitcoin? What? That's a huge amount of money. Out of nowhere, by the time we got to March, that number rose. We're trying to get $22 million together. This company's raising 88 million US dollars. MicroStrategy just bought $200 million worth of Bitcoin. I was like, what in the world is going on? Like, where are these numbers coming from? Then the companies start announcing, yeah, we just raised $1.1 billion. The Ethereum companies came out of nowhere the end of June. One of them has like $7 billion worth of Ether. That's a lot of conviction to have. You're either completely insane or you know something. No one... Metaplanet's a hotel chain. These people were like, yeah, we bought a Bitcoin. Cool. We have 22 Bitcoin. Isn't that funny? Okay, we're trying to get 1,000 Bitcoin. Okay, our goal this year is to have 10,000 Bitcoin. And I was like, okay. And then we had the news. Yeah, now we're trying to get 100,000 Bitcoin. Actually, no, what we're going to try and do now is by the end of 2026 to have 210,000 Bitcoin. We are a hotel chain. We're trying to raise $22 billion right now. That's where things are going. Anyway, yeah, without having to spend too much time on this was, as you might have imagined, quite popular news. I think it's, for me, in my viewpoint, it is pretty clear that this is going to be a thing. I don't know if everyone is actually prepared for this. I think many people aren't. And I circle the line around people within the cryptocurrency market. I think a lot of times you might have dreams or fantasies of prices going up, but you don't actually understand what it entails. Do you remember? This must have been maybe in August. We had news from an analyst and he was saying, I get why people want $1 million Bitcoin, but you don't really understand what it means to have $1 million Bitcoin. It means that the dollar has effectively collapsed. We will probably exist in some world for the next 20 to 30 years with a US dollar, but it'll be inflated to Pluto. Like, it'll have a very different look, but it will still be around and exist. This is the reason, if you don't know, the US dollar is doing so bad. This is why you're seeing all this attention now to US stablecoins. The idea of stablecoin issuers is that they buy and purchase US dollars, and they also buy US treasury bills, which also help strengthen the US dollar. So basically, by putting your weight behind these institutions and these companies who want to further digitize, if you will, the US dollar, with the stablecoin market apparently going to 8x to $5, $6, $7 trillion by 2030, the idea is you would then have trillions of US dollars held by Circle, held by Binance, held by Tether, to, create more stable coins, but that's how you prop it up. You prop it up by buying US treasuries. Remember when Facebook was trying to make their own stable coin or their own, currency, what have you? Do you remember why the coin was shut down so quick? It's because Coinbase was in conversation with a number of African countries and Asian countries, and they were holding those currencies in their reserves. I think around 5 or 10% of it was US dollar. The idea would be Facebook would have become the largest bank in the world overnight with 1 billion users. You have your bank with 1 billion people. What are you strengthening to back that new currency that Coinbase has? African currencies and Asian currencies. Remember, everyone in the US Senate and Congress was, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. That was why. It wasn't because of anything else. It was because Facebook had figured out a way. I think if they had been more quiet with it, it would have actually happened. If they had simply launched it and then gotten in trouble for it, we'd be in a very different world. The idea of stablecoins is meant to boost up and hold up the US dollar because it's not doing too well. So when you see these companies announcing allocations of huge amounts of money, what did I say before? Where are they not putting that money? These companies are buying $100 million worth of Bitcoin. They're buying $3.3 billion worth of Bitcoin. MicroStrategy is trying to raise over $100 billion. It's a real number. Remember their 21-21 strategy, and then they were trying to do 42-42 to raise all this money so that they can get to over 1 million Bitcoin. These companies aren't buying US dollars. They're not buying stocks. They're not buying land. They're not buying real estate. They're putting this money into Bitcoin. When you hear people from the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ and Fidelity and BlackRock all say that they're expecting Bitcoin's market cap to surpass that of US real estate, that's why Deutsche Bank comes forward and says, yeah, we can kind of see Bitcoin coexisting on balance sheets for central banks in the next 4 years. Are you like putting all the pieces together now? This isn't a fly by night thing. This isn't a, oh my gosh, 2029. Oh no, Bitcoin's $1. The big boys have spoken. I told you the reason why Bitcoin is going to succeed now, before it would have organically, it would have taken us a long time. Why Bitcoin's going to succeed now is because they want it to succeed. They've chosen the new thing that's going to take over. Do you understand what it would mean for one of the largest banks on the planet to create research, study, and then publish something that says this asset that's been around for 16 years is going to have a spot on bank balance sheets? That means they're expecting Bitcoin to be around in 2045, Bitcoin to be around in 2060. Remember we were talking about before all these other investors who were like, yeah, we put 2% into our of Bitcoin into our portfolio, and then it became 18% because the price rose so high. What happens if gold's price keeps going up, but so does Bitcoin? We get to a $5,800 ounce of gold, but then Bitcoin's at 1.2 million. And then Bitcoin goes to 2.8 million. It becomes a huge portion of their balance sheet. You've seen all the integration that we've seen this year for Bitcoin in equities, these companies who are just surrounded around Bitcoin, the integration into the idea of ETFs, these other companies who are trying to launch their own ETFs and they're buying more. Bitcoin is being wrapped around tightly to the traditional financial market. When Bitcoin has a yield, when Bitcoin produces passive income, and these companies are holding 28,000 Bitcoin and they can show on their balance sheet, last quarter for doing nothing, our company made $12 million in passive income, which we are A, either going to use to buy more Bitcoin or B, to buy more assets. Bitcoin continuously and will for the next 100 years continue producing us money as long as we hold on to this asset. Do you see the direction that this all goes? You must. You actually simply must understand what this all means. Bitcoin is becoming more stable. More people are choosing it as a literal asset class. We have governments on the planet. We have central banks purchasing it. Always remember how early you are in this market. Understand the chance and opportunity that you have laying out before you. The world is so different from 2019, even like money-wise. Can you imagine in 2031, if this trend continues, how many more companies are we going to have next year who announce that they're Bitcoin treasury companies, that they're purchasing 1,000 companies purchasing 1,000 Bitcoin? And that's a low number because all these companies right now want 10, 15,000, 21,000, 210,000 Bitcoin. Yeah. This is big. This isn't anything I hope really everyone here is paying attention. I've lost all energy trying to persuade other people outside of crypto to even look towards this market. I told you they will pay attention when Bitcoin. They will pay attention when Bitcoin's at $500,000, and they'll buy when Bitcoin's at $1 million. It's the way that numbers work for people. Yeah. Anywho, hope everyone out there is doing well. I hope you're all investing, remembering to put money away into a savings account, something, anything. You need some kind of savings in some sort of way, shape, or form. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do sincerely hope that it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.